everybody, welcome. I'm Daniel G. Garza, and this is another episode of Put It Together Conversations. Welcome to the show. I'd like to welcome everybody who's watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Thank you for joining us. Remember that you can be part of the conversation as well. Make sure that you enter into the video and post your questions, comments, and join us. If you're watching us on YouTube, would you do us a favor? Scroll down, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. That'll notify you every time there's a new show posted on our YouTube page, where you can find all of the shows on the Little Mexican Productions Incorporated page. So make sure you go check those out. My guest today is life coach Luc Benoit. And let me tell you a little about him. Luc Benoit is a certified life coach and professional hypnotist. He has his MS in education and B.F.A. in film. He has practiced in the areas of recovery, personal wholeness, and mental health for 15 years and touched countless lives as he's helped people achieve sobriety, overcome addictions, depression, and raise their self-esteem. Luc is married and lives in Orange County, California. And without much more, let me bring him onto the stage. Welcome, Luc. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. Thank you. Usually this part of the show is where I tell folks how I know my guest. And we have been scrambling together to try to figure out how we know each other. But I think I just knew about you, or I read about you, and then I stalked you like I do most of my guests, and then here you are.
You know, I don't remember when this kind of manifested now, this interview. I saw that you and I were friends on Facebook, and I thought, why don't I remember this, you know? But sometimes that's how it is. I can forget a lot of things very easily. I'm old. It works.
Well, join the club. But yeah, somewhere down the line, I think I either read about you or saw about you, and then I was like, because I'm 14 years clean and sober, I'm guessing somewhere down the line, the recovery
maybe
connected somehow. But I get the feeling that we connected at a conference or a space somewhere. Either way, I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Of course.
I mean, my pleasure. My pleasure. How are you doing? How things have been lately for you?
How have things been lately? Things have been pretty good lately. Some things making me really happy. You know, it's interesting. Yesterday was the anniversary of my dad's. It would have been my dad's birthday. Gotcha. Yesterday, and the last few years of my life have been filled with a lot of death and mourning and grief. Really hard period to get through, and I'm feeling so good now, and I'm so grateful that that seems to be over and that it's changing. You know, it was very hard. My whole family died over the course of 3 years.
Oh my God, my condolences.
And there were four of us. It was my aunt, my mom, my dad, and me, and that was it. That was our family, really. And first my aunt passed, and then my dad passed 30 days later. And then my mother suffered terribly with Lewy body dementia, which is what Robin Williams had. And it was the reason that he killed himself, because it's so excruciating. A lot of hallucinations, just complete degeneration. And she suffered for about 2.5 years with that before she passed. And, you know, we were so close. We were... it was like kind of tribal. We were so together, you know, and it's not the same life without them. It's very different, you know, so there's a lot of adaptation for that. And I really had never lost anybody before. So it was a new thing for me. Gotcha. And it just knocked me on my ass. And, you know, for quite a long time, I couldn't work. I had trouble just to get out of bed. It was hard to eat. You know, it was like, I've been through many depressive episodes in my life, but that's a long time ago. And this was, somewhere I thought I would never go back to. But you can't necessarily choose sometimes.
And it's interesting that no matter how much professional preparation you have, you're never personally prepared. Before we continue, I do want to, Marlon Warren is watching us, so I want to thank her, your publicist, for connecting us and bringing you on the show. So thank you for watching us. But yeah, our condolences from Little Mexican Productions. We share in your pain. And I lost my mom in August, and Christian lost his parents a couple of years ago. And so we understand the pain that you're going through.
What I kind of... what I'm happy to say is that when it first happened, it was just all darkness, and when I thought about them, I just had all these regrets and so much pain, and it wasn't good thoughts. And somewhere along the line that flipped and changed. And now when I think about them, I just think about how well they took care of me and how lucky I was to have them. And, I was so lucky, nobody had parents like that. We had our rough spots, of course, some very big rough spots, but, in the end, it's love like magic is how strong it was.
When you're able to take the time that you knew them, the time that you were part of their life, because I think we forget sometimes that we're the children. We were born into their lives already.
Yeah, that's true.
And that what they taught us was what they knew, and we have to sort what's good for us and what's not, and that takes a lot of work. It really does take a lot of work.
I wasn't what they expected, that's for sure. I was particular, and I was, as a small child, very bright and very challenging, and it would have been so much easier if I had been a more normal kid. The gay thing was very hard for them, very, very hard. It was kind of crazy because they had lots of gay friends, but they had also a lot of old world thinking, and there were years after I came out to them that things just weren't right. It wasn't, the communication wasn't right. And then somehow that got different, and they came around, they just sort of got it. And they were, by the end, they were really good, especially as they were going. My husband was really part of that process, and he was there supporting me, and he was good with them, and they loved him. And, they always had great worries about me being taken care of. That was the big thing for them. Will there be anybody to take care of you? How will you take care of yourself? So interesting.
Well, I'm so excited. Again, our condolences to you, and our hearts go to you. But we also want to hear about what you're working on now and what's going on. So, look, Benoit, tell us how you put it together.
Well, it's interesting. I hear myself talking about all this, and I think that's going to make its way into another book. That's cool. Because that's how those books happen. They're very present energy, and whatever's happening with me when I'm engaged in the process of writing them, those meditations and those books, what's going on with me filters into the writing, and it becomes another thing outside of me. It's a very interesting thing. I would say I almost go into a trance when I'm writing, and it moves through me, and really has kind of a mind of its own. And especially with these books that are laid out on the page very unusually. They kind of flow, and it's almost graphic or something. The space of the words on the page is expressive too, and it just lays itself out. And it's suddenly there's another one that's done, and another one that's done.
Well, there's a very interesting. For those of you, I have his book. I've been reading his book. In fact, there are very few books that sit by my bedside table, and this is one of the books that went on my bedside table. There is, if you follow me on Facebook, I posted a picture on Facebook of the book when I got it, because it really caught my attention. The way that it's printed, you have to follow, and you take us on this little Alice in Wonderland type of dance through the book, which is really interesting. Where did that concept come from? Where did the idea come from?
I don't think it really came from anywhere. It was very organic, but somehow I always have this idea about haikus. I always used to like haikus, and they lay out in a really interesting way, and they're a certain number of beats, and somehow the concept of a haiku filters into these meditations. They don't have a certain number of beats, but they do have a rhythm. They're just different, and they resonate for people. All kinds of different people are touched by these books, and it's always surprising to me. Somebody says, "Oh, this made me cry," or this just reminded me of what happened to me, and it just hits the nail on the head for people.
And I'm going to show y'all. I'm going to read out the one that caught my attention when I first got the book.
Sure.
We'll show the cover in the book in a minute. But how did this book start its journey? How did you begin to think? Because this is number 2, the one that I have.
That's the second book. Mm-hmm.
But how did 2 come to put it together?
Well, the first one was done for a long time before I started working on the second book. And it's very strange. They just happen. They just kind of happen. The tough part is engaging in the process, getting myself to start it. Once it's started, it kind of takes over and has a life of its own. Years ago, I used to write screenplays, and actually I'm writing a new screenplay now, which I have not done for a long time. And for me, I always had a certain process with that, and it really was the same with these books too, that it was like hatching an egg, that you just had to kind of sit with it and let it percolate and become whatever it was. And that was a waiting process and a waiting period until it was ready. And then, the egg became whatever it was going to be. And then the writing would really start for me. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And also, yes, we will definitely ask him if he will read something for us later on. So we'll make sure that we get something from him. There are different aspects that you tap into professionally. The hypnotist part, the recovery part. Is this geared towards your group specific? Is it kind of a general idea? Who were you thinking of when you wrote the book?
I think it was just an expression of me, because I'm all those things. I've been in recovery for a long time. I have 27 years of sobriety.
Nice.
Name the 12-step program, I've probably been to it. I've had to do a lot of work on my own mental health over the course of my lifetime. I love self-help books. There's certain self-help books that were crucial for me. Like, I love Marianne Williamson's A Return to Love book. that is just, I think I've read that book like 11 times.
Oh
It
wow.
really, really is a powerful book for me. And I love Melody Beatty, and she has some wonderful meditation books too. And those really were important for me at certain times. And I'm sure they were influential for me. I really like the Al-Anon Meditations book, Courage to Change. It's if that's the book, one of those books where you pick it up, you open it, and it's just what you needed, you know, and it can make such a big difference. So um, those books were really important to me in the process.
And for those everybody watching, this is Put Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. My guest today is life coach Luc Benoit. I just like saying your last name. It's so cool. We're talking about his new book, All Storms Past, Volume 2, and the process of it, how he put it together. How long did it take you to put this book together?
It took a long time, and you know, I was finished with it, but I wasn't sure that I was finished with it. And for some reason, I didn't want to let it go. I think that I liked the first book so much, and I'm so proud of it, that I wanted to make sure that the second book was as good as the first book. And when I think about them now, I think they're different. They have a little bit different flavor to them, but I'm very proud of both of the books. You know, so the book was kind of done, and I didn't pull the trigger to let it be published. You know, I was, oh yeah, something held me back for that for a long time, and then my parents got sick and my aunt got sick, and my aunt had initially given me the money to make the book project happen. So I felt like, well, you know, I've got to do this. And she was there in the hospital, and she was dying. She was in the last stages, you know, and I got the first book, the first proof that was really what the book was. And I was able to put it into her hands, you know, and that was, it was really special. You know, she always really supported me as a writer, as a student. She was so intelligent, and we had that in common. You know, like she was mine. That was it. We were cut from the same cloth, and she understood me. And you know, she could be difficult. Don't get that wrong. Uh, and she had high expectations too, but she was always there for me. You know, I fell back on her many times, and she was the best. She was the greatest.
What was your, because I have a book under my belt now, and
Uh-huh.
it's a kid's book, but even writing for kids, I was able to write for me as a kid and help me
Uh-huh.
through some process. It was very therapeutic. What did you learn about yourself writing this book?
You know, the whole thing of writing the book is really tremendous, because you look at it, you look at pieces of it for me, and I think, wow, sometimes that is so good. I can't believe I wrote that. How did I write that? What? You know, there's an entry in the new book that is about uh, the trapeze, and it's really about relationships, you know, and that one, just to me, it's very, very perfect. It's laid out in such a way that it's just perfect, and um, the concepts, the way the language fits together, I don't even know how that came out of me, but I love to look at that sometimes, and it kind of it's wondrous for me to see
So,
that.
would you think that it's safe to say that different parts of you came together to write this book?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. It's writing these books is healing. Reading these books is healing. You know, they're very knowing, and um, they they just they gather reactions from people that say like, "Wow, yeah, I relate to that. Yeah, wow." That's the kind of magic of the book, of both of them that way. That's it's really kind of amazing if you think about it. Like, where did all this come from? I was a lot the channel. I just kind of was the channel of what was happening. But all of these things also had to do with what was happening in my life and what had happened in my past life, and spirit. I think it's a very spiritual um, process. It's a very spiritual thing. And it's interesting now because I'm really in a spiritual crisis, or I have been. I think I'm kind of starting to come out of it, and that had to do with the death of my family, and um, I'm sure I'm still angry about it. I had a big pocket of anger that was stuck, and I did some work with a coach, a very good friend of mine, a guy named Mark Shaheda, and in that work that we did, this I don't know how you describe it, a pocket of almost like hate and poison, or whatever energy, about God. Especially, I was so angry about my mother's suffering because it was so extended and it was so terrible. And when she died because of the COVID, I couldn't get to be with her, so she died alone. And you know, it's kind of like, what were you thinking? Why did you let this happen? I don't understand. And I'm still have some anger about it, but before I was, raging about it. I think I'm just starting to reconnect, and the 12-step program is all based on that. Give me the guidance, uh, to tune in, to let it come to you, the inspiration, the intuitive thought, the decision, all these things. That all had been lost to me for a long time, and it's just starting to come back now. Like, I lost the ability to meditate, period. I just
That makes
couldn't.
sense.
Yeah,
That,
I just couldn't, in that space that I was in. I couldn't meditate, and I'm not really excited about meditating now, but I do know that in the moments that are difficult, I need to center. I need to find my center and release it and open myself and be still and focus.
yeah. And because I do spiritual coaching and the work that I do in energy work, like I know when my mom passed in August, they're in Texas, and I couldn't fly to the funeral, and
Yeah.
kind of like you, like, dude, like, what are you thinking? Like, why
Yeah.
right now? Like, she'd been
Yeah.
suffering with Alzheimer's for like 15 years. Like, you pick now to do this,
Yeah.
and even though we know the doorway to walk through to feel better, I didn't want to walk through it. Like, I
Yeah.
know that if I take these steps, I will feel better, but I am not ready to feel better. So I'm gonna sit. I'm gonna sit at my pity party for a little bit
Uh-huh.
until I'm ready. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think I found myself in a time where none of the tools worked, you know, and um, they weren't even there. The tools weren't even there. And it's so funny because I've been working with this stuff for long, long time, if somebody came to me with their grief issue and their anger, I could help them. I could do the work with them. I know what to do. I'd be able to do it. It wouldn't even be hard, you know. It's just what you do. You just do the processes. But you know, I was in that place. It wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't going to happen. You know.
Yeah, it's easier to put the gloves on and help somebody else dig than do our own. Oh yeah, because yeah.
Yeah. It's sometimes it's so easy to help somebody else, you know, and that is healing too. When you do that, it makes a difference. It's wonderful.
Yeah. I do a normal. My mom passed away Friday morning, and I usually do a live stream Friday night. And I couldn't do it. I was like, I'm not going to do it tonight. But then the next morning I woke up and I was like, no, the best way for me to work through this is to just do something, be of service to somebody else.
Yeah.
And it did. I'm proud of the fact that I can listen to other people when they say, do what feels right to you, which was that, be of service, because it definitely opened the door for me to be able to go through that process. Otherwise, I'd probably still be sitting in that pool of despair that we go through. Yeah.
So glad to be out of that bed. I'm so glad to be living in the sunshine. You know, it was bad. It was really bad.
Well, we're so glad you are too, and that you're here sharing your story with us. Would you be able to read one of your pages with us for us?
Let me grab the book. Hold on one second.
Excellent. So for everybody watching, this is Put It Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. My guest today is life coach Luc Benoit, and we're talking about his book, part 2, which is All Storms Pass, the Anti-Meditation 2, Rain and Fire. Go check it out. This is the one that I have.
This is so funny because I opened the book, and this is what it turned to. I'll read it to you. It's never an accident with this book. You know, it says here, today I will honor my anger if I'm not yet ready to forgive. They say time heals everything, but I'm still waiting. So and then the next page, it's kind of like a companion to it, says, I will release the anger when it's time, because forgiveness really does set you free, and it's more for me than it is for you.
That's awesome. So
I know, it's funny. It's like just how we were talking about it.
Well, if I dare, when I got your book, and again, thank you, Marlon, for sending the book over, which I was so excited because it's signed, so I got a signed copy.
Oh.
But when I got it, I was flipping through it. I'm like, well, let me see what this is about. Mm-hmm. And for those of you again who follow me on Facebook, I posted the picture on there because it says, today I will realize how good I really am, and let the sky inside me be filled with shooting stars.
Yeah, that's
and it was just happened that day. I was one of those days when I was like, what am I doing with my life? I'm not doing anything. My career's going nowhere. I should just stop. And then I opened your book and I was like, how dare you, Luke? How dare you do this?
It does that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes. So we just read one. Yes.
You know, the most important part of the book is the first page, and it's in both of the books. It's the same thing. It says here, the statement of high self-esteem, and it says, and that's what the whole book is basically about. This page, these concepts. Number 1, every person deserves the right to live with high self-esteem. Number 2, if anyone ever told you that you were anything less than wonderful, they lied. The problem now is that at some time in the past, you swallowed and believed those lies, and you are still living them out in the form of your current problems. That really says it to me. That's what all the work I do is about. And there's a video that we made years ago called The Pac-Man Theory. And I urge everybody to watch this video. It's on my website. It's on my YouTube. And just Google it. Luc Benoit, Pac-Man Theory. YouTube, it will come right up. And
Cool.
man, that is an amazing little piece of work. That's the best thing I've ever done. And it's a concept about, I mean, as a teacher, that's the best thing I've ever done. And it's about how when we're young, we swallow up like a Pac-Man these negative messages that come to us, maybe from our parents, maybe from the world, maybe from our peers, abuse, whoever the abusers are. And the list, the kind of sample list is, you're eating these messages. You're fat, you're ugly, you're stupid. Why can't you be more like your sister? You're just like your father, when maybe your father died on the toilet with a needle in his arm. Okay. You're a faggot. Okay. Or we can look at racial slurs, all these negative messages that happen to us, and we don't have the ability to keep them out. The Pac-Man has one job: eat the dots. That's it. So later on in life, we're this Pac-Man with all these dots inside us, and we don't know how to live, and we don't know how to be free and have pleasure and get rid of these dots. And that's the work that I do with people, is changing their minds, changing their wiring. I do some work with tapping and NLP that is very, very powerful, very cathartic. We want to get in there and rip out that old poison and install the positive instead, and then blow it up as huge as we can. This is how we change people's lives. This work is amazing. Tapping is amazing. Some people know about it. A lot of people have never heard of it. A lot of tapping you can do, it's like this: above the eye, side of the eye, underneath the eye, collarbone. And that's basically the sequence that you do when you're doing the tapping. And you're going to be saying different sentences, words. You might have a script that you're reading if you're tapping on yourself as you go through. I think for me, it's much more powerful if you have a guide, if you have a practitioner who's tapping on you and who's outlined the process and is able to bring you through it. That really is the way to do it for me. I find it hard to tap on myself. There's another video on my YouTube channel. It's called Quick Anxiety Tap. And what's good about that Quick Anxiety Tap is that it shows you how to tap on yourself, basically, almost if you were having anxiety or a panic attack. What would you do? How could you do that? So you train yourself with this if you have an anxiety issue, which so many people do. And then when it strikes, you use the tools to make a difference.
Yeah, for everybody who's interested in anything that he's talking about, this is his website, and you'll find a connection to everything he's talking about through the website. So make sure you make sure you go check it out. Now, you're just a treasure chest of information. And were you always connected to energy work, to betterment? Was that part of your growing up, or when did that come up?
That's a really good question. I think when I went to the 12-step program and I started to look at the question of spirituality, that was a beginning. I had very hostile ideas about God when I went to the 12-step program. And, it's all God, 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 you know. So, and the truth is, I had read a book by Marianne Williamson, this one, A Return to Love, which is really spectacular. And she was really popular at that time. She was on Oprah. And this girlfriend of mine, this drunk girlfriend of mine, I was just, you know, early out of college, and I was in my alcoholism, really significant alcoholism. She told me that I should read this book. And I said, you know, that's not for me. I'm not going to read this spiritual book. Forget that. And then she said, you know, you really need to read it to be a well-read person. You know? And she got me. You know, she went for my ego and she got me.
Yeah, because none of us in the program have egos problems. So yeah.
Her name was Christy, and she was an unusual girl. She drank a lot, but she was into spirituality and God and church. Probably she probably went to church too. But I read this book, and it really made me think for the first time, maybe God is not an asshole. It was the first time I ever thought about that, you know, because my concepts earlier were always about, like, the Depeche Mode song. I don't want to start any blasphemous rumors, but I think that God's got a sixth sense of humor. And when I die, I expect to find him laughing at me. You know, that's how it was for me before. That's what I believed. So I went to the 12-step program, and it was very hard for me. I was very scared. I was very nervous. I didn't want to be around people, and you know, it's all people. You have to make friends, and it was difficult. But at least I had that kernel of something. Maybe God is not an asshole, you know. And that's kind of how it started for me. And I got very involved in the program. I went to a lot of meetings. I got great sponsors. I did the steps. I started to use the tools and meditate. And I started going to, at that time, a New Age church, the Science of Mind church. And I was interested in that and law of attraction. And, you know, but that was just the kind of beginning of it. And
Gotcha.
it just has grown and grown, you know. When I get in pain, I seek tools, you know. I look for solutions, and those have brought me into all these different kinds of things that I used to help other people, you know.
Yeah.
And they change. Like at one time, I was super into crystals. Like my whole house, there's crystals all over my house. Now, I don't feel it. I'm not even interested in them, really. But there was a time I was really, that was it, you know. So it comes and it goes and it changes. My little dog, she's not here. I don't know where she is. She is spirituality. She is like, I love that dog. Like, I can't even tell you, you know, she's just perfect. She's the most perfect little thing ever, you know, until she wants to be bitchy, you know, until she wants to, you know, not love me the way I think she should love me. You know?
But before we continue, I do want to thank, because we've been getting a lot of comments on the site, Christian and Micah and Aaron and Marlon. Thank you for continuing the conversation. They like your choice of music. They've been asking about tapping and checking into it. Micah said, well said, Luke. It's the belief system, alpha and
That's right.
delta brain functions. And so people are really, and Christian had a really good suggestion about submitting your books over to the World Service and getting those approved. Really? I think that would be really good too. I think that would be really excellent as a meditation.
I never thought about that. Yeah.
And I second that, because the rehab that I went to, we had the AA book, we had the Bible, we had spirituality books, we had poetry books. So when we did our morning meditation circle, they weren't like, you don't have to bring the AA. We want you to learn, tap into whatever feels good to you. Because
Yeah.
not everybody had the concept of God. I was raised Catholic, excuse me, and I was very fortunate that my parents did not teach me to fear God, but they were like, He's going to help you. Just trust Him. And I lost ways when I was using and drinking. And when I came back to God and I was like, where were you? And He was like, dude, I've been here. You've been out getting high. Like, where were you? If you'd gotten out of the backseat of a car more often, you would have seen where I was. But you said something really interesting. And I say this to my clients too, is that your connection to spirit, to your spirit, changes. You can be into crystals one time, you could be into cooking another time, and just because it doesn't work all the time doesn't mean that you're broken or that that you stop bettering yourself. You just change the shifting. You change your vision a little bit. Does that make sense?
It does. Sometimes making that shift can be difficult, you know? So you have to look at what is working for you in the moment and at this time. So, like right now, I have 3 dogs. I'm very connected with the dogs. There's just no words for it. You know, that's important for me. I work out a lot. Okay. I was a little bit crazy this morning. I had things going on. I was worried about this and that, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I had to do some work. Then I went to the gym. Becoming physical is really important to me for my sanity. I have to move my body and use my body, and that when I'm doing that, it takes me out of my head because I'm concentrating on that physical, and that is really necessary for me. If I have a day, I go to the gym almost every day. I would say at least 6 days a week, sometimes 7. And if I have a day that I don't go to the gym, I feel like a failure. You know, I feel like I didn't accomplish anything, which is not logical. You know, I could have been doing other things, and maybe it's good to take a day off. But for me, I really need that physical engagement. It makes a big difference for me.
Yeah, I can understand that. For me, it's because we we co-own this production company. For me, it's connecting, sending emails, getting connected with guests. Like if one day I am not networking, I feel like my day has not been productive, and it's
Oh,
very
yeah.
difficult. It's
Yeah.
very difficult, but it's gone through shifts. There was a time when I was working promotions and events, and a weekend without an event would be like I wasn't doing anything. Like my whole month was ruined.
Yeah.
So for everybody watching, your energy, the way you shift your energy, can connect and disconnect from people, places, and things at a certain time. You're not a failure. You're not messing up. It's just going to change. But yes, you're right. Sometimes we're like, oh, I should be doing more. What am I doing with my
Always,
life?
always something like that. Yeah.
So, for everybody watching, this is Putting Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. We're talking with life coach Luc Benoit, and we're talking about his book, All Storms Pass, and how God is not a complete a-hole, and maybe he is a little sarcastic. Who knows? You know, what if God was one of us? Ha! Another song reference right there for
That's
you.
right. That's a great song.
One of the traditions on this show, though, is to have our guests share some words of wisdom. And although you've been sharing lots of them, look, Benoit, what words of wisdom can you share with the audience?
Wisdom. Well, I think this is really important, and I find it to be very difficult. And Louise Hay, you know, the author of what is the book now? I'm not thinking of it. How to Heal Your Life.
Mm.
She was very good friends with Marianne Williamson, and Marianne Williamson found her to be very wise, and she would always go to her with for help when she was having a problem. And I remember hearing this story, and what it really happened was every time she went to her, she would give her the same answer, and it was always love yourself, love yourself. And that's it. That's really, those are the words of wisdom. Love yourself. Then this question comes up: what the hell does that mean? How do I do that? How do I do that? Sometimes that means doing things that are responsible and good for you. Maybe you want to do them, maybe you don't. But there's something inside. I think it's really kind of crazy because some people just have it and other people don't have it at all. And it seems kind of like a crapshoot, especially alcoholics and addicts have a big deficit with self-esteem. Big deficit with
How
self-esteem.
dare you, Luke?
It's true. And, what are we going to do about that? And the steps are helpful for that. And other kinds of work is helpful. The tapping is phenomenal for that. Coaching is great for that. Hypnosis can be good for that. Therapy can be good with the right person. There's a kind of therapy that's really powerful. Not many therapists do it. It's called EMDR, and it's very misunderstood. But that is a powerful therapy that accesses your subconscious. You can get a lot of healing with that. It's not something that I do, but I've experienced it, and it is tremendous.
Pretty cool. Thank you.
So how do we get that? I love myself. How do we get that? Love yourself. That's the ticket right there.
Yeah. There was, we mentioned I've been clean and sober. June 21st was my 14th birthday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I got to the point where I was proud of it. I was like, I want to be proud of 14 years old.
Sure.
14 years is not an easy feat. It took me 14 years to get there. But for me, and you can add to this, for me, it took first off, because I work with chakras a lot. I work with aligning the chakras and making sure that things are not blocked. But it was you were talking earlier about the things that people told us and the things that were right. And I when I talk to my clients, it's about going to the root chakra and what is in your nurture and your nature and finding the balance of those, because not everything that everybody told us growing up, both good and bad, is true. And we have to sift through it. And I think that was the beginning for me to be like, you know what? I'm pretty cool. Like, I've accomplished a lot. And I'll be honest, when we talk about resources, Facebook Memories is a great resource for me because it gives me a chance to go back to a year ago, 9 years ago, when I did something.
Those can nail you.
Yeah, you're like, oh man, okay, so I have accomplished something in my life. So what other resources have you personally used to get you to where you are now?
Well, I remember, I don't have a sponsor now. I haven't had a sponsor for a long time because, as you get a lot of time in the program, that gets harder. But I had a sponsor early on who was transformational for me, a wonderful straight man who was incredibly unconditionally loving for me. And, we did the steps. He took me through the steps. It was powerful, but it was more that relationship that I had with him of just calling him on the phone every day and checking in with him every day, and he would say, I love you. And it would be like so weird, because he was, I don't know, he was always happy. He he knew about money. He knew how to make money. And he was very unconditionally loving. He was a very wise guy, super wise, like, and totally connected. You know, he smoked like a chimney, but he was so connected. And
That's
that was
right.
he just gifted me with that relationship, and it changed everything. A picture of him in my bedroom, the picture from his funeral, that, you know, the card or whatever that was at his funeral. Um, he was amazing. His name was Rick. He was old school, man. He just was the best.
It's interesting the people that come into life. I'm from where I'm sitting here at my desk. There's a picture of my sponsor who passed away several years ago,
Oh,
sitting right across from me, right down. And he was the last sponsor that I had, but he was one of those guys that he was like, "We're gonna have lunch and go see a movie every week,
yeah,
and you carve out the time however you can because I
yeah,
want to talk to you, and then we're gonna go celebrate whatever
yeah.
you've accomplished."
That's
And
great.
we this is when I lived in Houston. We would go have sushi, and then across the street was the movie theater, and we go to matinees on Tuesday because it was cheap, and but every Tuesday we had a standing date, and I credit him with getting me started on the journey that I am now. Just it's pretty awesome. We do have a question before we go.
Sure.
How can we seek out qualified or certified hypnotist?
There's a lot of people who do hypnotism. Uh, it's interesting. I've been getting a lot of referrals for hypnosis lately because a friend of mine, who I think is the best hypnotist that I've ever met, his name is Matthew. Um, he has lost his voice, so he can't work. He can't hypnotize people. He can't speak, and he's lost his voice for it's been over 3 months. So, um, as a result, he's been sending me a lot of people, and it's been an incredible blessing. I'm looking for his name because I want to say it. Uh, where did it go? Matt Rosencraft. The guy's a genius. He's in Orange County. He's a genius. But he sent me a lot of people, and it's a blessing. I think they find him everywhere. He's listed. He goes onto the directories, and um, I think somebody told me they even found a Groupon about him. You know. I don't know. I mean, you have to Google it. I think the best thing is word of mouth to find somebody, because you want to get the really very best possible person that you can get, you know. And Matthew, like if you engage in a process with Matthew, a hypnotism process, it's going to be tremendous. Um, I have a different approach. I may use hypnosis. I may do the tapping. We're going to find out where the person is. We want to locate that, what's going to work for them, what they're going to be interested in, what's the nature of the material that they're talking about. Um, Everybody's individual. It's going to be different for everyone.
Gotcha. So before we run out of time, I want to remind everybody, go get your copy. It's on Amazon. Both copies are there, both 1 and 2. I have 2, so this is the one we're talking about today. All Storms Past, the Anti-Meditations 2, Rain and Fire. Go check it out. Really, I don't, you won't be disappointed. No matter where you open it in the book, it talks to you. Um, I've been going one a day. Every morning I wake up. It's part of I do my gratitude list and do my body, mind, and spirit check, and then I
Good.
open the next page. So you
So
wake up with me, Lou. Just
what's good with that is read the page and then put the book down and close your eyes and go into a meditation for like 3 minutes or 5 minutes and set a timer and just let whatever comes up come up. Try to clear yourself, let whatever comes up come up, and like it will point you places. It's really very interesting how it'll
uh,
happen.
Yeah, my ritual in the morning was gratitude list, and I get in the shower, and that's where I do my meditations and my prayers. So
Good.
now between waking up and my gratitude list and the shower, Luke is there. So Luke, you're right between waking up and the shower. Just so you know.
We'll get you the first book too. We'll get that to
Oh,
you.
I will say yes. Thank you. I'm already loving this one. So thank you. Luke, thank you so much for coming on. For everybody watching, make sure you go check him out. Everything you need to know about him is right there on his website. His book is on Amazon. Go check it out. Any last comments before we head out?
Thank you. I had a really good time. I
I'm
hope
so
this
glad.
was went well for you and that everybody enjoyed it.
People commented, people joined in the conversation. I think it's great. Thank you again, Marlon, for setting this up for us. We so appreciate you for that. Uh, I'm going to put you in the green room for just a second. Don't go anywhere, Luke. I'll be right back for you.
Okay.
For everybody watching, thank you so much. Again, my guest today was life coach Luke Benoit, and remember to go check him out. Go to his web page. Now I can't talk. Reminding y'all to check us out. We got something going on every day of the week. On Wednesdays with the Christian and Daniel show. On Fridays it's the Cardivo, and then a couple of shows on Saturday with Put It Together Conversations. And you're like, but wait, today is Tuesday. I know. Every once in a while we throw in a special surprise show. So make sure that you are following us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, do us a favor, scroll down, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. It'll let you know whenever a new show is being posted, along with all of the TikToks. Remember, I'm on TikTok. If you're not following me, you should. Monday to Fridays, Breakfast with the Comadres. Join us at about 9 a.m. Monday to Friday for just a little morning of spiritual coaching, energy work, readings, chit-chats. Make sure that you are joining us. If you have not heard, because I talk about it every show, here's my book, Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Game. It's a guided meditation book dedicated to children, but it's really good for all ages. You can find it at any of these 5 book outlets. Go check it out. It's out, and the Spanish version is being edited and printed as we speak. So that should be coming out pretty soon. One of the last comments on here is, Micah, thank you for sharing. Thank you for joining us. Luke was a great guest, and I am sure we'll have him back again with some more information. For everybody watching, I'm Daniel G. Garza. This is Put It Together Conversations, a show about folks. It's about you, where you come from, where you are now, and what your journey is like. The idea is to motivate and inspire other people to go after their dreams and goals. And I hope today's show has motivated and inspired you. For now, I want to thank Luke, Marlon, and all of you for joining in the conversation. We will see you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.